Welcome to the second part of this Q&A. So this part will cover all the questions related to paste mixing and the ingredients involved in making henna paste. This will be the longest of the three parts because I got many questions on that. I'll put some timestamps in the description if you want to skip to certain questions only. So enjoy. The first question is, how can I get my henna more sticky and how can I mix it? You can mix it using my recipe. You can find it the tips tab in my website or on YouTube. I'll leave it in the description as well. This recipe makes sticky henna, so because of the sugar inside the paste, it sticks pretty well to the skin. Okay, this is a long one. Hello, I use your henna products and recipe to create my paste. I usually end up with a really good stain, but after dye release of a few hours, as you recommend, I don't see a difference in the paste from the green to brown as expected. My paste usually looks mostly brown, but the stain still comes out good. Am I doing something wrong, or is it okay if we don't see a difference between green and brown after dye release? As I say on my website, you can often see a difference after dye release between the top layer and the rest of the paste, but it is not necessary to know if the paste is ready. Most of the time I don't see it very clearly as well. It depends on how dry your powder is. It depends on how much in contact with air it was, like plastic wrap, on the lighting and the original color of the paste. So definitely, if it gives good stain, don't worry about the dye release color. The next question is, what happens if you accidentally add in too much essential oils in the mix? I don't recommend using more the essential oil than the amount I recommend in my recipe because it happened to me a lot of times. I used to think maybe if I added more essential oils, the stain would be a little darker, but if you put more than that amount, the chances are the oil will separate from the mix, so you won't notice it right away when you mix the paste. It will look normal, but once you put it into cones and start pressing on it, you'll see that it forms tiny oil bubbles, and once in a while like it will just squirt. So it's really messy on the hands or on paper if you do henna sketches, so I really don't recommend using that. An advice on what to do is to balance the other ingredients, so to add a bit more of every other ingredient just to compensate for the big amount of oil. I followed your steps in making henna paste, but the stain wasn't so good, mostly because of the henna powder I use. Can you recommend good henna powder for dark staining? Yes, henna powder is very important to get good quality stains. Of course I can recommend mine because that's the same one I use, so I know how good it stains and that it's very fine, so no cone clogging or anything. So I think it's the best one, but I honestly recommend Rajasthani henna because I think it gives the best stains. Some Moroccan hennas are also good, but they're not ground and sifted as fine, so they're really hard to use. So try to look for Rajasthani henna, or you can purchase some on my website in the shop tab. So all these links would be in my description if you're interested. The next question is how to check the perfect paste consistency of henna paste. This is a very good question because without the good consistency, it's very hard to make clean designs. I'll insert a little clip right now, right after I say this, to show how I check to see if the consistency is right. question is, do you know an easy recipe for henna? And when I make henna, does it have to be organic sugar or just plain sugar? My recipe is very easy to use. I kept the ingredients minimal and simple and easy to find. Well, as easy as I could. And it doesn't have to be organic sugar. You can use just regular white sugar. Can you please suggest me a good brand of essential oils? It's important to know that not all oils are essential oils. So if the packaging says eucalyptus oil, it's most probably not essential oil. It really has to be essential oil. And even then, most essential oils have no beneficial effect to the henna paste. So I recommend lavender essential oil, cajeput essential oil, or tea tree essential oil. Eucalyptus is a bit tricky because you really have to find a good supplier, and it has to be Eucalyptus globulus. But you can purchase my essential oils because just like the henna powder, I know they work because I use the same ones. And I trust my supplier, I know who they are and all the products they sell, and I know that it's pure. So you can see all information on my website. My question is, how can I adjust and balance ingredients in my henna paste to get the structure of a toothpaste, for example? When I add too much sugar, it makes paste unbreakable, but the paste becomes not so pigmented. Or the paste loses its shape when I draw small details and they become one big mess. It seems that the problem is not that there is too much sugar in the paste, but that there is too much liquid. So I really recommend adding less liquid, so this way it shouldn't melt like that. And when you added more powder, maybe you added a bit too much, or there were still lumps. Is it possible to ship bulk henna paste instead of henna cones to those countries where you can't ship henna cones? Do you ship bulk henna paste? I do supply bulk henna paste, but just like the henna cones, I only ship it in Canada and the United States, because the problem is not the cones, it's the paste that is inside. That's what's perishable, so no, I can't ship it worldwide. Can you explain the difference between stringy and creamy henna and the design elements they help to achieve? I'd love to create dots and leaves, but when I press the cone, the paste doesn't flow out in a blob shape, it just comes out squiggly. In all the videos posted by Henna Pros, I've noticed that they are able to achieve those elements simply by pressing the cone a bit more, but that didn't work for me. About this stringy and creamy henna, I will definitely make a video exclusively on the difference between the two, because I get this question gets asked way too much. Like I think I will just make it clear for once and just make a video explaining it. As for the paste coming out squiggly and you can't do big dots, I'm pretty sure the issue here is that the powder you use isn't fine enough, or that you mix the paste too thick, because when the paste is the right consistency and the paste is fine enough, the henna just flows from the cone really easily. So that might be why you see other artists that use the cone and it looks super easy and the henna flows out really well. It's either because they use a really good powder that's already fine enough, or because they strained their paste before putting it into cones. Okay, the next question is, do you need essential oils for the consistency of the henna paste? The essential oils purpose is not to make the consistency any different, although it does add a bit more liquid to the paste, but it's more to make the stains darker and more long lasting. I'm struggling to get darker stains. Also, my paste is always a little more creamy than stringy. Does it depend on the type of powder? So Jamila Henna powder is a brand of powder made from henna that's grown in Pakistan, and it makes the paste creamier, thicker, and Rajasthani henna, which grows in Rajasthan, India, is naturally gives a very stringy paste. So it really depends on the powder you use, and also on how fine the powder is. If the powder is very grainy and it has like tiny particles that that are in the powder, it can make the paste less stringy. Okay, the next question is how to correct a paste having excess sugar. Just like when you put a little too much essential oil or too much water, just balance the other ingredients. So if there's a bit too much sugar, add a bit more paste, a bit more water, and maybe a bit more essential oils, a bit, just to balance the ingredients. Okay, so the last question for this part of the Q&A is how do you make your henna powder? Do you grow your own henna plant or do you obtain it from somewhere else? I do grow a small henna plant, but it was gifted to me. It's not, I don't use it to make henna powder, although I tried once, but I failed. So it's just for fun. It's a baby plant. It's really small because Canadian weather isn't right to grow henna powder, so that's why it doesn't naturally grow here. So I import my powder from Rajasthan, India, as I said earlier. So that's it for the second part of the Q&A, covering all the questions related to henna paste and all the ingredients that I put into henna paste. I hope it was somehow helpful to you. I will link the video in which I show how I make my henna paste with all the instructions in the description, so you can check it out. I want to thank all of you who left sweet comments as well as your questions. I only answered and referred to the questions because I wanted to be straight to the point, but I appreciate all your compliments and all your nice words. So thank you, and the next part of the Q&A will be all about designing. Maybe I'll title the video differently, but it will be about henna application, how to do leaves, how to do straight lines, and all these questions I got on my Q&A post. So I'll see you in that last part of the Q&A that's coming next. Bye!